So a couple of weeks ago, I bought a couple of PlayStation 1s and some PlayStation 2s, and they all were in different states of repair. Most of them needed the typical stuff, you know, missing either a laser, a broken laser, or something like that. But this one here had a little bit different problem. This one initially had a problem where it had no power. I did some quick troubleshooting on that, and I don't know if you could see here or not, but I noticed that this pin right here had a cold solder joint. So I went ahead and fixed that, and the power came right back on. So I thought we were all good there, but then once I hooked everything up, I noticed that this one also has no video. So I decided to make a video about how to fix this issue, since it's something that's not very typical that you see. So I'm going to first of all run through my troubleshooting process of how I came to discover that I think these capacitors are bad. So the first thing I did, which is a quick and easy way to test your port, is to hook up your cable to your port, and then you can just pin out the actual leads to the cable, and this will tell you whether the port is good and whether it's making connection to the board and everything. So you just go ahead and put your meter on continuity, and you can pin out all of these ports to this board. So we'll start with our yellow pin. You just put your lead right there on the yellow pin, and then I believe it's the third pin that is for video. It is. Third pin on the back row. So we can see we're making a good connection there. Then we want to check our white pin. I think that's pin 2. Oh, nope, it's pin 1. So pin 1 on the back goes to white. We're all good there. And then finally we'll check our red cable, which goes to pin 2. And we see that we're all good there. So that tells us right there that we have connection through all the way through our cable to our board. So we probably don't have an issue with the video port. So the next thing we would look at, which is a typical culprit for these old PS1s, is the capacitors here. And you can see right here on the video card, these capacitors right here, they tend to go bad. I mean, you know, this is a greater than 20-year-old system. So we're going to go ahead and replace these capacitors because it's quick, easy, and cheap. So we'll go ahead and replace them one at a time, and then each time we'll test it after we replace one. So you can actually desolder these capacitors, but that is a little bit hard to do. So what I typically like to do is I just like to just grab them with a pair of needle nose pliers, and you just kind of tweak them back and forth, and you just kind of break them off. You'll hear it snapping, and then it breaks off. When you do break it off, you do need to still get off the plastic piece at the bottom. So you can just grab a hold of that plastic piece and just essentially break that off as well. There you go, you can see it just breaks right off. So now that it's broken off, you still need to remove the pins that were attached to that capacitor. They are still on the board. So we'll just grab some needle nose pliers here, and we'll grab our soldering iron, and we'll just get this solder hot. And sometimes it'll just pick them right up, and sometimes you just got to grab them. So get it nice and hot, and just grab that lead right off of there. There, actually. Oh, nope. Still on the board. Okay, there's one of them. And we'll go ahead and grab the second one here. Almost. Got it. Okay. There's our leads off. So the capacitor that we just replaced, you can look at the top and see what size it is. It's a 220 microfarad 4 volt. We're not too much concerned with the voltage. As long as you go higher, you can put any size voltage you want in there. Just make sure it's a higher voltage. But for the microfarad, you have to make sure that you actually do put in a 220. So we have a 220 16 volt capacitor right here, and we're going to go ahead and put this in place. Before we do that though, we're going to clean this up a little bit, because you can see some of the fluid from the capacitor has leaked out underneath there. So I'm going to grab something real quick and we'll clean this up with some alcohol. And this electrolytic fluid just leaks out when these things are bad. So we'll go ahead and clean this up a little bit. And then we'll put our new capacitor on there, and then we'll retest it. So you really want to make sure that you do clean this fluid off of here, because it actually is corrosive. So it will eventually corrode the board and cause issues later down the road. So go ahead and clean that off as good as you can, and then I just usually take the dry tip and hit it a little bit to dry it up a little faster. Now we can go ahead and put our new capacitor on there. So what you should do first is to just put a little bit of solder on those pads. That'll make it easier for the installation process. So you just take your iron and you just put a little bit of solder on each one of these pads. And then you'll reheat that solder to attach the new capacitor. So there is the fluid on there, solder on there. So now we just go ahead and we make sure that we put this back the same way that we did, because these do have polarity. So have your two little pads on each side. Just make sure you install it the way that it was previous. So we'll go ahead and just put it back in there. Let me grab my light here. Okay, now I got some light in here, and just go ahead and put it back down, put the new capacitor back on here, and we'll just heat up the solder that we placed. Okay, that side is in, and we'll go ahead and heat up the other side, and we should be good. Okay, our capacitor is now soldered back into the two ports, and we should be good. Okay, let's go ahead and hook up our system back to the TV, and we'll see if that restored our video. If not, we'll take a look at the second capacitor and we'll replace that next. Everything plugged back in. Let's plug in our system. Turn on our TV. Get our video cable connected. Okay. And we'll go ahead and turn the power on, and we'll see. We've got it set to our component here. Got the power back on, and as you can see, our video is now on. So it was that capacitor. As soon as we pulled that capacitor off, and I saw that the electrolytic fluid under there, I was pretty certain that that was going to be our issue. So we just cleaned that off, we replaced that capacitor, and now our system's back up and running. So we'll go ahead and put it all back together. The PlayStation 1s are very easy to take apart. They're probably my favorite system to take apart, because I'm sure anybody who's worked on these and worked on some of the newer models has discovered that there's a lot of pointless screws in there. With these old PlayStation 1s, there really weren't any pointless screws. So the system itself, actually, there's you know, the metal framing underneath here, and then there's the circuit board, and it actually, you just put the controllers in, the controller ports in, and set it down. There's no screws that holds that down. Then you take the other piece that goes on the top, the other metal piece, and you put it on the top like this, and it's all pretty obvious where it goes. It just fits right down there snug. No real issues there. I don't want to say that, but it's not quite going down flush like it should. There we go. You just caught on a little nub. So everything's good there now. Still seems like maybe a little bit doesn't want to sit flush on the board. sure there's nothing on top here that could be causing that. Oh, that cap is a little bit taller, I think is the problem. So our capacitor is just a little bit taller, so it kind of touches it a little bit there. You can feel it, but it shouldn't cause any problems. So we got that case back in. Now we can go ahead and just put the laser back on. The laser just sits right here on these 3 little nubs. There's no screws that attach it either. It just sits right on there. So we can go ahead and connect our ribbon cable. And then we connect the power to the CD drive. And then we can reconnect this back up and test the disk drive and see how the disk drive is working. Hopefully we'll find that the disk drive on this one is working good now. We've already had 2 problems. We had no power and no video. So hopefully we can get lucky here and not have a video or a disk drive issue as well. So before we put this disk drive on here, or this disc on, we're gonna go ahead and just put a little bit of IPA on the laser here. Just give it a good wipe. I usually like to wipe right here too. Just spin it around and wipe it real good. And then again, take the dry side of the Q-tip and dry the laser a little bit. And now we are gonna go ahead and turn this on and we are gonna put a disc in. So you can test this system without the cover on by placing the disc on here, and then you just have to hit the little sensor right here to let the system know that there is actually a disc in it. So see, as soon as I push that down, the disc starts to spin and it recognizes that there's a disc. So hopefully we'll see that this laser reads this disc and the game comes up, and then we know that our system is good to go. So there you go. We got our PlayStation logo coming up. We're gonna make sure the game comes up completely, and then that will be the end of this troubleshooting process. So, like I said before, most of the systems had pretty basic issues. I'm going to try and make videos when I see unique issues like this one, where we actually have to replace a component, so that maybe in the future, if somebody has this problem, they can find this video and see a quick and easy way to fix a video issue. Real quick before we end this video, I'm going to pull this back out and I'm going to show you one more time which capacitor I replaced, because the one that I replaced, there's a reason why I replaced the one in the middle, because that is typically the one that I've seen go bad. So if we take this metal cover off here again, you can see here there are 3 capacitors right in front of the video port. It's typically the one in the middle that goes bad. Sometimes you can see the electrolytic fluid on the circuit board and sometimes you can't. So I just assumed that was probably what the issue is, because that's what I typically see. So I went ahead and replaced that one, and as you can see, that did fix the issue. Just remember, when you're replacing that capacitor, that you do have to make sure that the capacitor is the correct size microfarad wise. But the voltage, you can do any voltage as long as you go higher. Just don't put in one that has lower voltage. And we took care of our issue. So this issue is fixed, and we can go ahead and put it back on eBay and sell it to somebody who hopefully gives it a good home. Thank you.